Okay, so not only do we cover everything MMA here on Inside the Cage with in the cage, you should figure I should know the name of my own show, In the Cage with Cyclone, but we cover every little aspect of MMA. And now we're going to cover it from the merchandising side with the man from MMA Signatures, the man himself, Mr. AJ Heller. AJ, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, where did your love of MMA actually come from?
Well, it's crazy because as a young kid, my parents had me and my brother in martial arts. We started Taekwondo karate at the age of 5 back in 1980. And from there, we transitioned into boxing and wrestling. And I joke around with everyone because I say I invented the UFC because we were doing these backyard tournament-style fights, long before the UFC came around. I even told Art Davey that one time. But, we would take our martial arts and we would do a tournament in the backyard, and we would do it every day, And so that's really where my love started. As far as the memorabilia, I've been into memorabilia my whole life: baseball, football, basketball, hockey. I've owned 11 stores in the tri-state area. I actually got sick of, these teams. Like I always use Alex Rodriguez as an example because Alex Rodriguez was always a player that was desired for his autograph. So when he was on Seattle Mariners, everybody wanted Alex Rodriguez, Seattle Mariners. Then he gets traded to Texas. So nobody wants the Seattle Mariners stuff. Now they want the Texas stuff. So now I'm stuck with Alex Rodriguez autographs from Seattle. I start buying Alex Rodriguez Texas stuff, and then he gets traded to the Yankees. So now nobody wants the Texas, nobody wants the Seattle. And, I lost a lot of money doing things that way because, you pay $200 for an autograph, try to sell it for $300 or $400, and he gets traded, and now the autograph's now worth $50.
Right.
Right? So I got to the point back in 2008 where I sold off all my memorabilia, and I invested it solely into mixed martial arts. People thought I was crazy. Oh, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And, today they're looking at me saying, man, I wish I did that.
The ultimate karma, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
But same thing with not as much with MMA, but as far as the values decrease and so on and so forth. But it is like the stock market, because they're not playing as much. So, say for example, baseball. Alex Rodriguez could have a bad season. His autograph is still worth money. In MMA, if you have a fighter who loses 2 in a row, now their autograph is has decreased more than 50%. And I'll use Ronda Rousey as an example. Back 2 years ago, you couldn't keep Ronda Rousey in stock because her merchandise was so desired. Everybody wanted Rousey. It didn't matter what the autograph looked like. People just wanted it. People bought it up. She loses 2 in a row. Now you can pick up that same autograph that you sold for $300-$400 for, $50.
The ultimate comparison for me would be that Billy Ripken rookie card.
Oh, I love that rookie card.
Oh, my God. That and the Jose Canseco Flair double rookie card.
Yeah, it was the that was the Flair with him with Eric Plunk.
Yes.
I still remember that card. I'll tell you a story about Jose Canseco. It was in 1986. His Donruss Rated Rookie came out. I had a paper route. I was 11 years old, and I wanted to buy it. It was $125. Now, do you know how many papers you have to deliver to get $125, especially at 11 years old? Well, anyway, I saved up enough. I went and bought one. It wasn't even in mint condition, but I bought one for $125, and that same card today is worth, I think, $4. However, I still have it. That's one of the only cards I still have, and the only reason I have it still is because I worked so hard to get that card, and
So in other words, that's going into the box with you, 6 feet down one of these days, huh?
Yeah, without a doubt. Same thing with that Billy Ripken rookie card. I still have that F-face card. I don't know if I could say that on the air, but it has the real word on it.
So, at this point, how many pieces would you say are in your private collection?
See, the crazy thing is I don't even collect. What I do is I say, okay, I'm going to hold on to this piece. And then if somebody says, hey, do you have this piece? And that happens to be something that I was keeping, I sell it. I'll move it. Like, there's nothing, all the material pieces that I have, unless it was given to me by a fighter, personalized, I sell everything. Even if something was on my wall and somebody called up and said, hey, do you have this? And the only one that I had in stock was the one that was on my wall, I would take it off my wall and it would be shipped that same day to the customer.
You know what? I almost feel the same way because recently I just got my first actual night of the fight walking to the cage piece from a fighter.
Nice.
And that was at the Bellator 180 NYC card.
Oh, yeah, I was there. Who's the fighter?
Chaim Ghazali.
Oh, okay.
I had asked him and his uncle because they were walking around all week with their Team Ghazali T-shirts.
Right.
So I asked him, I'm like, I'm a big fan of yours, I'm a fellow Yid.
Oh.
Do you even sell those like on your website or something? And he looks at me and, look, I'm a big guy and I've had celebrities and athletes say things to me, but never quite in a crowd of people did something like this come back at me. He goes, I do, but not in your size. You are too big.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, really, bro? So everyone's just bursting out laughing, and I'm like, really, bro? You gonna out me? I get it. I'm fat, okay? You don't gotta say it. So he goes, do you want? I could give you a hat. And I was like, yeah. Listen, I'll take anything you can give me. I'll gladly take. And sure enough, afterwards, came back and he gave me the hat.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I have my favorite piece, and this is a piece that I'll never sell. I'm a huge Dan Henderson fan, and I've worked with Dan so many times, on the East Coast, on the West Coast, and I sponsored him for one of his fights when he fought Tim Boach. I was actually his only sponsor for the fight, and it was the last time he ever had a fight that he had sponsors. So anyway, he has these walkout shirts that he had made up that said "Believe," and it was him actually doing the H-bomb to Michael Bisping. So, Dan keeps all of his memorabilia. I mean, he has everything from Pride, the first Pride, and even before that, and he keeps it. He keeps it for his kids. Well, anyway, he had his walkout shirt from the one fight, and he said, AJ, I'm going to give this to you, for everything that you've done for me, so on and so forth. And I thought it was the best thing ever. And I said, would you mind writing something special on it? Because this is something that I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life. And he said, yeah, no problem. To AJ, Dan Henderson. That was it. However, that's a piece that, if somebody called me up and said, hey, do you have a Dan Henderson walkout shirt? I would have to tell them no, because that's one piece that I'll never get rid of.
Wow. And actually, a mutual friend of ours, Brian, talk about luck. I introduce him to James Gallagher. I tell him how great James Gallagher is going to be. And then, of all things, he wins the cage side tickets, which blows my mind to begin with.
Yeah.
So he's downstairs. So Gallagher's mother and girlfriend hook him up and give him James's walkout flag.
I saw that.
And I'm like, are you effing kidding? I'm the one that made you know about him. How is this possible?
Yeah.
I'm the SBG guy. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. You see a lot of guys who win these different things, and it's good to see somebody that win something. Today's actually his birthday. I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Today's Brian's birthday. So a happy birthday, Brian.
So you went from store to house. Are you planning on possibly another brick and mortar place?
Brick and mortar is a tough business, and I'll give you an example. It's when I was in the malls, different malls that I was throughout the tri-state area. People don't go to the mall to buy memorabilia. It's not a destination for them. So it's almost like an impulse. So they're walking by and say, oh, hey, there's a, Derek Jeter autograph, or there's a Chuck Liddell autograph, or something like that. It's an impulse by the item, similar to when you're at the grocery store and you're there and you're getting ready to check out and you see there's a pack of gum for sale, and you grab it real quick. You didn't go into the store to buy the gum. It just happened to be there right at checkout. So what happens with the brick and mortar is you're paying rent all year round, and it gets expensive. Even if it's, say, $1,000 a month rent, which I've never paid that cheap for rent. Yeah. So say it's $1,000. Then you have your insurance, you have your electric, you have your payroll. Your payroll minimum will be about $4,000 a month. So say right there, just in expenses, you have, say it's $8,000 in expenses. So if you're running on a 50% margin, you have to sell $16,000 just to break even.
Wow. Just
to break even, on the items. So, $16,000, you figure that doesn't seem like that much, but it's $500 a day. Some days you might not do anything. Some days you may do $1,000. Some days it may be $200. But at the end of the month, you're praying to God that you have enough sales just to, pay for the cost of goods sold and to pay for, the rent, the utilities, the payroll, so on and so forth. Now, what happens is there's 2 months out of the year, which is November and December, people getting ready for Christmas, that, makes up for the entire year of losses. However, the way that I looked at it is, if I'm going to go into a mall, I might as well go into the mall or the brick and mortar store just those 2 months out of the year, and then have the rest 10 months to, just sell online. So if I was going to do a brick and mortar again, it would be just for 2 months out of the year.
Now, let me ask you this then. Having the stuff at home, does that, out of curiosity, raise an insurance rate?
It does. I have a separate insurance, for my business. And what it is I have a warehouse actually set up. And, it's set up for things that I have on eBay. It has things that are set up for my website. And then I probably have a total in my inventory. I have about 40,000 pieces, which is insane because nobody was ever, nobody's successful based on how much inventory they have. I'd rather have zero inventory and have that money in my pocket. Yeah. But anyway, right now I have about 40,000 pieces, and probably 6,000 maybe is listed between my website and eBay. So you can imagine how much, excess inventory I do have. And the reason that happens is I'll do a signing with somebody. I'll say, okay, I'll get 200 items from you, and then I'll sell it in the groups, and I'll say, okay, I have a signing with so and so. 50 pieces might sell. So now my inventory is increasing by 150 pieces. So every time I do a signing, it's just increasing my inventory, and it gets out of control sometimes. Because it's fortunately / fortunately, the fighters are very accessible. So, you go to an event, you find out what hotel they're at, and the collectors or, the fans are going to be at the hotel getting autographs. So now they're getting the autograph for free. So why go and pay for them? So I'm not sure if it's ever going to change. From a business standpoint, I would love for it to change. So then I can move my inventory because the fighters aren't as accessible. But at the same time, MMA has the best fans in the world, and MMA fighters are amazing to deal with. So you would never want to tarnish their reputation or create a stereotype that they're not easy accessible. Similar to how baseball players are or football players are, where they're nearly impossible to get autographs outside of signings.
Now, let me put it to you like this. You might say that, but here's the thing. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Football and baseball are, and basketball, at least here in New York, is damn near impossible.
Yeah.
NASCAR guys are, I'd say, 1 and 1A with the MMA guys.
Right.
But the difference is the hotel security guys in the New York area make it impossible for while everybody from so far, World Series of Fighting, UFC, Bellator, I mean, they've been the only ones in town. So while they've been accessible and their PR people are saying we want our fans inside the hotel, you have hotel security making it damn near impossible.
Yeah, yep, yep. Yeah, it is hard. Even when UFC was at Madison Square Garden for 205, my buddy got a hotel at the Athena. That's where the fighters were staying. And generally, when you get a hotel room, they allow you to hang out in the lobby and, get autographs, so on and so forth. Cause
I know exactly where you're going with this. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think he paid $400 a night for the room, and they wouldn't let him graph, So the Athena ended up losing money because he had 2 more nights booked there, and he ended up canceling those nights,
Would you like to know why that happened?
Sure.
Okay, here's the God's honest truth, and I only know this because I was there when it happened. There were a bunch of us inside the lobby. Okay.
Right.
Not even about. I think maybe 6 of us at the time, and of all people, not a hard ass, not like the not even that he's a hard ass, but like a cowboy, not a Connor, not a Joanna. Chris Weidman walks in, the one local SOB that is in New York every single day who nobody on the island of Manhattan actually needs on anything.
Right.
Comes checking in. He's at the concierge desk, and the head UFC security guy, his name is escaping me right now, the glasses with the spiky hair.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I can't remember his name.
Every single person, with the exception of me, because I know not to do stupid things inside of a hotel lobby, they all bum rushed Chris at the concierge desk. And Mr. UFC security guy flipped out, lost his shit.
Right.
Turned around, went to the head of the hotel security and said, I want all these people out of the hotel. They are bothering my fighters. And from that point of the week, which was Tuesday afternoon, and I only remember because it was election day.
Right.
For the rest of the week, they didn't even want us underneath the overhang outside the hotel.
Right.
But that's the reason why we all got kicked out.
Yeah, that's a shame. I was down there that week, too. I had a few signings set up with Liz Carmouche, Caitlin Chikagan, and Johanna. So we were down there for a couple of days getting those signings done. But, yeah, it's a shame, because a lot of people, travel a long way. Especially just trying to get into New York City. If you're not from New York City,
right?
Is that's an event.
I'm one borough over in Brooklyn, and it takes me an hour to get to Manhattan on a good day.
Yeah. It's amazing. I was just out there this past weekend. We had Nick Diaz up at my gym, and I had to pick him up in the city, and it's it's definitely an event to get out. You have to prepare yourself.
So is there a sense of pride that you have being one step better than Steiner?
What was that?
Is there like a sense of pride that you have being one step better than Steiner?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would think Steiner's probably the best in the world.
I'd say that. And I got to say that only because I've had some bad run-ins with Brandon. But I'm telling you, you are not just one. You are a couple of steps ahead of him.
Well, I appreciate that. That's definitely humbling. And it's funny because with my other companies that I've had in the past, I've dealt with Steiner a lot. And I've actually, Steiner and a couple other ones, Mounted Memories when they were still around, and TriStar. And I've used their models to make my model. So I've taken the good stuff that they do, the bad stuff that they do, and form my own model. The one good thing that I have that a lot of these guys don't have is I'm specific one interest, where Steiner and TriStar and even Fanatics, they have their hands into everything, everything, and being more focused on one sport, it makes it a lot easier for me.
Now, has any fighter ever turned you down and said, "Nah, I'd rather not"?
Oh yeah, all the time, and it all comes down to financial. There's some fighters out there that they just don't want to sign because they want their autograph to be worth more money. Because at the end of the day, the more they sign, their value goes down.
Why do you think that it's come to a point where, like, card companies, for example, have just flooded the market with memorabilia pieces?
Card companies?
Card companies.
Oh, card companies. I'm thinking, man, I've never gotten to buy a car. Yeah, they were selling me memorabilia. See, card companies, they're needed, in the sport. And the reason that I say that because all the fighters are getting compensated, through their card. So there may be a fighter who signs very little to no, or never even did a private signing or something like that. So they're not being compensated for their autograph, where, Topps or Fleer will pay them, and they don't pay that much. I've dealt with fighters before who, I've negotiated with Topps to get them paid per autograph, so on and so forth. But I think there's fighters out there that actually need that extra income, and it really helps because there's a huge collector market out there for the cards, and it helps the fans out, it helps the card collectors, and at the end of the day, it helps the fighters. But to your point, when they're releasing, 10 different series a year, it gets flooded, and you could get a Johanna autograph out of a pack and say, wow, I got a Johanna autograph that's worth $20. And then the same exact Johanna card with a number on it is worth $50. So, it gets crazy that way. But at the end of the day, just as long as the fighters are being taken care of financially, it's fine with me.
Did you see the newest dual signing card?
I did. They're amazing.
Oh, my God.
Yes, they are amazing.
I don't now they're limited to what, like 5?
Yeah, they're 5.
I don't think those 5 are ever going to hit the public. It's good. In my mind, I imagine it being like that Honus Wagner card.
Yeah.
Where it just goes from one millionaire to another millionaire, and that's who's going to have them.
Oh, it's definitely possible. The whole thing is being the person to open up that pack and getting that. And I'll give you an example. This is when Topps just first started doing UFC cards. They did a card. There was only 10 of them made, and it was signed on the card by Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, and Dana White.
Oh.
Now, yep. If you were the first person, now it was a card. You actually got the actual card in the pack, but on the back there was a redemption. So what happens is you put in a redemption, and if you were the first person to redeem it, you got to go to a UFC fight and sit next to Dana White.
Oh my God!
Yeah. Now, the other 9 got a signed glove by Dana White and a dual signed glove by Tito and Chuck. So this is back when Tito and Chuck were doing the Ultimate Fighter. They were the coaches on the Ultimate Fighter, so you know how long ago this was. And I was the third one.
Oh my goodness!
I had the third card, so I missed it. But it was just awesome to have that card. But with these cards, it's crazy. I mean, I saw a couple months back, or actually it's probably a couple years now, a Ronda Rousey card sold for like $15,000.
Jesus.
So the card market is crazy, and I'm into autographs. I'm not really into busting open packs and everything like that. I do get on my kicks where I'll go and I'll buy a case of cards and just rip them open, knowing that, I'm probably not going to get my money back, but it's just fun sometimes to open. It's like a mini Christmas where you don't know what the heck you're going to get in the pack.
Right. Um, I know for myself, it was really, really hard to get this. But how hard was it for you to get your reputable reputation with everybody?
Well, it's crazy because when I first started, of course, there's a lot of critics out there, and oh, he's selling fake stuff. He's doing this. He's doing this. He's doing this. And I always bite my tongue and sit back and if somebody ever had a question, I would hit them up. I'd say, hey, you know, why would you say something like this? I can show you proof that this was signed. Blah 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 blah. And it actually took a couple years, because what happens is there's thousands and there's millions of MMA fans out there, and what happens is from doing all the signings and social media has changed the world. So just getting it out there. Hey, I'm doing a signing. I'm doing an appearance. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. And also by sponsoring fighters. So what happens is I probably sponsored about 100 UFC fighters over the years. So part of my here, we'll start over. When somebody sponsors a fighter, right, and they have their name on their banner or name on their shirts or their shorts, and somebody's watching the fight, the only person that knows that the company's logo is on the shorts or on the banner is the company. Because nobody's watching the fight saying, "Oh, that's MMA Signatures. Let me call them up," or, "Oh, look, that's Dynamic Fastener. Let me go check this out," or whatever company it is. So the company, like when I sponsor fighters, I'll look for it. I'll tell my friends, "Hey, check it out. I'm going to be sponsoring, Dan Henderson. Look for my logo." So what happens is there's zero, and I mean zero, return on investment for companies when they sponsor fighters. So what I did when I sponsored a fighter, I made it so, one, I got autographs. So I'd say, okay, I'll sponsor you for, $3,000, but, I want 100 autographs, and I want social media posts, and I want your fight worn memorabilia. So automatically, I knew I was going to get a return. So with that, having reputable fighters, posting on social media, check out MMA Signatures for your best autographs. That really helped.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah. So that was like my boost. When you have, these top, main event fighters or, main card fighters, promoting your company, that seals the deal.
Now, is there a piece that you don't have that you would absolutely kill to have?
I mean, it would have to be a pretty good piece for me to kill anybody. No.
Connor's walkout stuff for the 26th?
Let me think. I could honestly I've owned memorabilia, fight-worn memorabilia from everybody, from Ronda Rousey to Misha Tate. Really, there's nothing out there that I would, love to have in my collection, unless it was something like a championship belt, from, I couldn't even tell you Conor McGregor, because that's not something that I would even, want to have in my collection. So unless it was like Dan Henderson's, Pride Grand Prix belt, that's something that I would love to have in my collection, or his Pride, or his, Strike Force belt. I might kill for that. No, I really wouldn't kill. But you know what I mean? I mean, something like that would be awesome, to add to my collection. But I've had opportunities before Fanatics, because I've worked with Conor in the past, before he signed his exclusive with Fanatics. And, I've always loved Conor. I think he's an amazing fighter. He's, I think the sport needed Conor McGregor to come along and, be the trash talker and, get a whole country to follow this man. So I had the opportunity to do a couple signings with Conor, and his manager, Audie, had reached out to me to see if I was interested in doing an exclusive with Conor. Now, this is back right after the Dustin Poirier fight. And Conor still, he had a couple fights in the UFC. He was starting the trash talk, and, you knew that he was going to be a superstar. However, he was either one fight away from being a superstar or one fight away from everybody forgetting about him, because he really hadn't proved himself yet in the UFC. I mean, he fought Diego Brandao, he fought Max Holloway, he fought Poirier, and, there was talks about him getting a title shot, so on and so forth. So it was a pretty big six-figure deal, which, I didn't take the chance at. Now I look back and say, man, I could have cashed out on this deal, but it just wasn't a risk that I was willing to take at the time. But part of that deal is I would have gotten his fight-worn memorabilia and, so many autographs throughout the years. And, he proved himself. He backed up his words, and, I kind of wish I took the chance, but at the same time, if I took the chance or the risk, he probably wouldn't have been the superstar he is.
No, that type of karma only happens to me.
Yeah, I know.
But we are, in fact, talking to AJ Hiller of MMA Signatures. And just take a quick sidetrack. AJ, on the podcast, I have a bunch of fun little segments that I've put together. And I was wondering if you would be willing to help me out with one.
Absolutely.
Okay, so in this segment, it's Facebook questions.
Okay.
Where all my fans send in questions, and normally my producer will pick one, and that person will win a piece of merchandise that I have lying around.
Right.
So I would like you to do that this time. So
okay.
If you don't mind, can you pick a number between 1 and 16?
Sure. 12.
All right, so Aaron Cummings is going to be the winner this time. And here's his question. And it's so, you know what? This is karma for you that this is the question that you picked. Should Nate Diaz really be sitting out his prime years waiting? Wait, let me read. Should Nate Diaz really be sitting out his prime years waiting on Conor to come back?
That's a great question. And me personally, I would tell you no. And the reason I would say no is he's not getting any younger. You only have so many years to fight. And if you take the best years, because Nate right now is in his prime, and his prime will be for the next, 3-4 years. So if he takes a year or 2 years out of his prime, and he waits for that Conor McGregor fight, he's not going to be the same person he is today. What I would think is Nate should be out there, one, making money, because he still gets big paydays. So he should be out there making big money, and keep on fighting. He's one of these few stars in the UFC that could demand super fights, and people will love to see Nate fight whoever. I mean, whether it's Cowboy again, whether it's Waller. Nate fluctuates in weight. He can go from 55 to 70. So there's some great fights out there that Nate could get big paydays for, instead of sitting on the sidelines waiting for McGregor. Because the way it looks now, McGregor is going to fight at the end of this month. Who knows what happens? I mean, when you have $100 million, he may never fight in MMA again. He may continue his boxing career. So sitting on the sidelines waiting for, a potential big payday when you're watching other opportunities pass you by, I don't think it's the best decision.
See, I have two takes on that. Number one, I think the perfect matchup for Nate would be somebody like Al Iaquinta, only because Dana can sit back and say, here are two guys who I don't like beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
One of them's not going to survive, so it's one less headache for me.
Yeah, yeah. And I love Al. I've done a lot with Al. You know, I've been to Al's house. He is a scrapper. And at the same time, over the past year, he's been very vocal. And, you know, I think leading up to that fight, that's a great fight. I never even thought about that fight. Leading up to that fight, the trash talking that would be done would be similar to the McGregor and Diaz trash talking.
See, I think in a past life I was really Sean Shelby.
Yeah, you should be. You should be. You know, that's the thing is Sean Shelby, he's got a tough job, but at the same time, he's got an easy job because the fans make the fights, you know, and I think he sits back and says, okay, what are the fans going to want to see? And he puts together some great fights. Him and Silva, you know, it's a shame Silva's gone, but Sean puts together some great fights. So you should reach out to Sean and say that fight. However, would it be a big payday fight for Nate? You know, because right now, Al Iaquinta, you know, I'm not sure what kind of contracts he's on, or even if he has a UFC contract at this point. But I don't see that being $1 million fight for Nate.
Oh no, definitely not. It would be a step down. But the chance to take out one of Dana's headaches might reap a reward in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a fight would be a great fight would be Woodley versus Nate. You know, or Nick. You know, because Nick could go down to 170, but right now Nate could take that fight, you know, possibly become champion. And, you know, they're both great trash talkers. And you know, I don't think Woodley's on the good side of Dana or the UFC right now. So, you know, there's a great chance that Nate would pull that off. And it wouldn't, I don't think I've ever seen Nate in a blind fight. Right. So that would definitely make Tyron fight that fight.
Now look, the UFC has thousands of SKUs. You have thousands of SKUs. A company like Bellator, World Series of Fighting / PFL, they just have a handful.
Right.
Do you think that for them to truly become that much more successful, they should have more SKUs?
When you say SKUs, what do you mean by SKU?
Like items to buy.
Oh, now this is the thing. About 2 years ago, I signed a contract with World Series of Fighting. I was going to be their exclusive memorabilia distributor and go do the signings with them, so on and so forth. And the problem with both Bellator and World Series, and I think Bellator now is more, you know, has a different focus, where they're more of a competitor with the UFC. Is what they do is when they have a show, they'll put, you know, a handful of local fighters on the show that nobody's ever heard of, or that have, you know, it's their pro debut, or, you know, they only have a few pro fights underneath their belt. So if you actually go to Bellator and you start selecting, you know, okay, they have, you know, their light heavyweight division only has 10 people in there, you know, or, you know, their heavyweight division only has 8 people in there. So it's easier for a company like that to, you know, get the memorabilia out for their people, because there's not as many fighters in those organizations. But I think the whole thing is their marketing. I really don't think they have the access or the means to get it out there like the UFC does. UFC is putting on so many shows. Their face is out there so much. And I've actually I talked to Scott Coker about possibly doing things with their company as well. But, you know, they have, you know, they're backed by Viacom, and they really, you know, $1 million, say it was going to bring in $1 million revenue to their company. $1 million to Viacom is nothing. So they'd rather not do anything than, you know, only bring in $1 million. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It boggles my mind, because I'm like, that's where I came up from, like the marketing and the merchandising and the creative side of things. And when I see a company only selling 2 different types of T-shirts, a hat, and gloves. What the hell?
I know.
Where
I
are the
know.
programs? Where are the T-shirts? Where are the posters? Where the hell is anything?
I know. And that's the thing, and it's crazy. And I think their focus, both even the UFC, the focus is they don't. It's the memorabilia side of it, or the merchandise side is such a small piece of the business that they don't even really want to focus on. Bringing in those million or $2, $3, $5 million a year, because it's so minute compared to what the company's doing. Like UFC, for example, they have, every fight they do their sign-by cards where, they'll sell them the day of the event for $200. Sometimes they sell them for $1,000, depending on who's the card. But the inventory that's left over, you'll see sometimes on their site for $25, $30. And the thing is with so many events now, it's actually pushing the value of these items down, because in the past, they would do sign by card UFC, $199, and the collectors of the sign by cards who are getting every single one from every single UFC event, they would definitely buy it. Now they're doing fights every weekend, so for somebody to drop $200 every weekend for an entire year is a lot of money. So now people are shying away from buying these items because there's just so much going on. And the same thing happened with fight-worn memorabilia. I used to buy fight-worn memorabilia. It wouldn't matter. It could be, I'll give you an example. 5 years ago, when they were just doing, one UFC fight every month, UFC 199 and UFC 200. Well, actually, it was way before then, but it was just one a month. So now there was 12 fights on a card. So that's 24 fighters. That's 24 pieces of fight-worn memorabilia. At the end of the year, it's 288 pieces of fight-worn memorabilia. Now they have fights every weekend. There could be 12 fights. There could be 16 fights on the card. So at the end of the year, now you have 6,000 fight-worn pieces of memorabilia. So 5 years ago, a pair of gloves from Joe Schmo was going for $1,000 just because there were so few out there. Now that same pair of gloves is going for $150, $200. Just because there's just so much out there.
Right. So how does somebody from Pennsylvania wind up hooking up with a Brazilian fighter named Claudia Gadelha?
Well, she's actually not part of our academy any longer. But I'll give you the story. I did, back in 2015, I had this bright idea. My wife kills me because I get these bright ideas, and, I'm impulsive. So when I think of something, no matter what, I'm going to do it. There's no change in my mind. If I have my mind set on this, I am going to do it. So I had this idea where I'm going to do an MMA expo. So what I did is I contacted, we had 40 UFC fighters, current, former UFC fighters. We did first ever UFC 1 reunion. Had Art Davey, even flew in Gerard Gordeau from the Netherlands, Pat Smith, Zane Frazier, Art Jimerson. We did the first ever UFC roast where we roasted Dan Severn. So basically what I did was rented out this big place at the New York State Fairgrounds, had all vendor tables, and every fighter had their own table, and, my goal was to just bring in fans, like a bigger and better than a UFC expo, because, the fighters were going to be there all day. Well, anyway, the weather wasn't in my favor that weekend. So, the turnout wasn't as great as we wanted. However, leading up to that, 2 weeks earlier, because Claudia was there, I brought Claudia up, so she was with us in the Poconos. We went ahead, we did a couple appearances, we did some seminars, and, she really liked the area. And I had told her that I'm going to be opening up a gym. At that time, I didn't have my gym open yet. And she was interested in becoming partners in the gym. So she went and, after that she had some great success where she went and filmed The Ultimate Fighter versus Johanna. And then what we did was, during that whole time, I was building the gym, I was getting everything. And, once she was done fighting Johanna, the second time she came and she moved here to Pennsylvania. And, we opened up the gym. And then after a few months, she had some different plans where she moved out to Jersey and wanted to train out in New Mexico. So we had parted ways at that point.
So
Yeah.
what's the work with Maverick MMA?
Oh, Maverick, Willie from Maverick, he's a great guy. He's been around the game for years and years and years. He was with CFSC, he was with XFE, and he decided that he was going to make his own organization, which he's already had 2 fights. They're getting ready for their 3rd one in September. And the thing is when you work with different organizations, you see the pros and the cons. So I think what Willie's doing is, he's taking all the good things that he's learned from these organizations and, implementing them into his organization and knowing the faults and from those other organizations and making sure that he's not making the same mistakes that some of these other organizations have done. And he's really put together some great cards.
Well, let me put it to you like this. If you guys are ever looking for a fat Joe Rogan.
Yeah, well, see, that's another thing. I do Pocono Fight Night, and I do all the pro and amateur fights, boxing matches in the area. And we always look for, commentators and stuff like that. So it would be great to have you come up.
Oh, my God. Yes. Here is my arm twisted. And let me tell you something. This is in the perfect area. The only place on this planet I am relaxed is in the Pocono area.
Oh, really? Nice.
I used to always go to the August race at Pocono, and I would stay in. Sometimes we'd stay in Wind Gap, which.
Oh yeah.
Talk about the one light town.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's definitely nice. A lot of people don't understand. And I'll say, yeah, I live in the Poconos. And they're like, well, what's the Poconos? I said, did you ever watch, like, the Newlywed Game from 1980? Back then they were like, you win a trip to the Poconos, and it's just a nice, relaxed area. I mean, where I live, I get deer, I get bear, I get, fox. I get all kinds of wildlife in my yard where, it's crazy to think that we're only an hour and 15 minutes away from, New York City, where there's, 8 million people and, not a tree to be found. It's a pretty cool place to live.
But yes, oh my God, we definitely have to talk because I would, free of charge, I'll go.
Yeah.
Now my agent didn't hear that, but oh my God, that is something that wow.
Yeah, and the reason I started doing boxing, one, I box, I love boxing, and I didn't want to compete with Will. I didn't want to compete with CFFC. I didn't want to compete with anybody. So boxing, nobody was doing boxing up in this area. So I said, what? I'm going to do boxing. And, part of my boxing program in my gym is huge. So it's actually like, I don't want to call it a monopoly, but at the same time I will call it a monopoly where, people come and they say, oh, I want to be on your fight card. Well, just to let you know, I put my fighters on my fight card before anyone else.
As well
so then it almost brings them where they come and they want to join the gym because they want to fight. So, and last month we did a fight. It was only the second time in the history of the United States that a father and son fought on the same card. We had Jesse Altmans and Jesse Altmans Jr. Fight on the same card. The only other time it was ever done in the United States was when Leon and Michael fought. Leon and Michael Spinks fought on the same card.
No, they didn't fight each other, did they?
No. But we do different things like that. I bring in special guests, celebrities. My best friend is Matt Hamill, and so he's with me all the time up here. And he trains out of the gym, and then he'll go back to Utica, train up there for a while, and he'll train in Syracuse. at Team Impact. But good news. I'll get this out here right now. He's going to be here the day of the Mayweather fight or the day before the Mayweather fight, the 25th. Actually, we're going to do a seminar with Matt here, and the UFC is going to be here filming. Where are they now? So,
wow.
It's a great opportunity for people to come out and meet Matt, see Matt, and get some FaceTime on UFC Fight Pass.
See, I would say I would like that, but they've put my mug on embedded so darn much that they the crew actually knows me now. And I'm like, guys, please, I'm begging you, stop putting me on. Please film around me. I really did. I said that to them in Brooklyn, and they're like, nope, you're good for the camera. I'm like, stop.
Oh, that's funny. Actually, one of the best moments ever was when I was doing a signing with Johanna for UFC at UFC 205, and we were up in her hotel room, and UFC Embedded was there. And Johanna went on for a good 5 minutes, telling them all this great stuff about my company, MMA signatures, blah, 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 blah. And I've worked with Johanna probably maybe 10 times. I think I'm the only one that she's ever done a private signing with, and we've done probably 6 or 8 private signings with her over the last 2 years. And all this great stuff. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be on Embedded. And unfortunately, it didn't make Embedded. But it was pretty neat, just hearing someone at her level, her caliber, with her status, talking about how great our company is, Because at the end of the day, that's what we do. We're in business to help the fighters out because, they're not making that much money fighting. After you take out their taxes, after you take out, their coaches, their gym, this and that, at the end of the day, they're lucky to be bringing home just a few $1,000s. So any extra, that we can help them out with, whether it's doing a signing or a seminar or an appearance, at the end of the day, that's, it's what's best for the business.
Absolutely. Well, look, I want to thank you for your time.
No, thank you. It was an honor to be on the show.
I appreciate it. And we are definitely going to talk about doing some commentating.
Yes, I think it'd be great. It'd be great. You got the voice for it.
And I have the face for it. For radio.
Perfect.
But once again, thank you very, very much for your time, and we'll be in touch.
All right, sounds great. Thanks again.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.